Welcome back, Caustic Men, to another 10-minute watch review. Today we've got something that I think is really cool, the brand new Squale Montauk. You know how this is going to go. No wrist check, no BS, just in depth with this watch in 10 minutes or less. So this is the Squale Montauk. This is a US exclusive. It's exclusive to LongIslandWatch.com. The first thing that I want to say about this watch, just to let you know, is that this mesh bracelet that I put on here does not come with the watch. The watch comes supplied on this very nice Italian leather strap. It's a single ply leather, very soft, comes with a signed buckle there. The reason that this is not on the watch right now is because the sizing indexes are not small enough for my wrist. I know, small wrist guy problems. It's fine. I think it looks great on that mesh bracelet, but this is the strap that it will come with if you buy this online. Okay, first things first, the specifications. The case on this is measuring on my calipers at 37.7 millimeters. It's important to note though that the bezel is about 2 millimeters larger, a little over 2 millimeters. It's actually coming in at 40.5 millimeters. So this increases the overall size of it, but you can see that the case itself is about 37.7 millimeters. We're looking at a lug to lug of 46 on the nose, case height of 11.7, and lug width of 20 millimeters. This is powered by a Swiss-made Sellita SW200-1 movement. This is said to be regulated to 5 positions from the factory, so we'll take a look at that on the Timegrapher a little bit later, but if that's so, should be running pretty accurately. This is a sapphire crystal with anti-reflective coating on the underside. The bezel has a K1 mineral insert, and that little brownish pip you see on the top there is lumed. This is water resistant to 30 atmospheres, that's 300 meters, and it comes with a 2-year warranty. This is a screw down crown. It's signed with the Squale logo. Screw back case, pretty standard. It's got the Squale company name, stainless steel, 30 atmos or 30 atmospheres, Swiss made. The case is a 316L stainless steel, of course. Would we expect anything less? Okay, let's go in depth on this dial. This is the black dial variant. There are 6 different colorways. Mark at Long Island Watch admitted that that could be quite a lot, but I think if you take a look at them, you'll see that the colors are quite nicely done. Nice to see that level of option available for you if you don't like the black dial. I think this matte black dial is well in keeping with the vintage feel of the watch. If there was going to be one variant of this watches that might have actually appeared in the mid-century, this one would be it, I would say. The indexes and handset are lumed with super luminova. It's that sort of caramelish, aged sort of luminova that's meant to imitate the aged radium style dials of the old mid-century. The proportion of the handset, as far as I'm concerned, is nearly perfect. The hour hand doesn't quite touch the hour indexes, but the minute hand does touch the minute markers. That second hand reaches just far enough. I like the proportion of it to the dial face itself. It's not intrusive. It's well in keeping with that vintage aesthetic. Nothing too big. That paddle style seconds marker is just great. I love that. I really like the font on this. I think it looks mid-century, it looks vintage, it looks very, very cool. I'm not sure what I think of having the Squale, the double company names on the dial there. The shark motif on the bottom is kind of neat. I kind of like it. I guess I don't mind it. It's curved. It's kind of gives you the sense of that rotor that's on the inside of this watch. Pretty nondescript on the 30 atmospheres rating and the Swiss made down at the 6 o'clock position. I really like the chapter ring in this. It is purposefully contrasting with the black dial and black bezel insert. I think it looks really good. It makes the dial look a little bit smaller, and I'll show you what this looks like on the wrist a little bit later, but I think that is keeping the aesthetic look of the watch a little bit smaller. That chapter ring helps in doing that by making the dial look a little bit smaller. The crown has no crown guards on it. That's well in keeping with that vintage look of the watch. I suppose because the bezel does extend out past the case a little bit, that could provide some protection there. I think the crown is nicely proportioned to this. It's a little bit oversized, as it probably should be on a sport watch like this. There is a bit of a problem actuating that crown, however, because the bezel is so much larger than the case. It can kind of be difficult to move your fingers around it when you're trying to set the time or hand wind it. That's a little bit of an issue for me, but relatively minor, I would say. Case shape is pretty simple, pretty classic. It's got a brushed top side, polished sides, and polishing on the back, except for the brushed areas on the case back there. There isn't really any chamfering on the case, no details like that. It just goes from the straight brushed to the polished edge there. Not a super sharp edge to it, but I think it serves well enough. The aesthetics of the bezel are exactly what you would expect on a vintage-inspired watch. I love that little caramel lume pip on the top there. Because it is a little bit oversized to the case, it's very easy to actuate. Nice, smooth, positive ratchet sound and feel to the bezel. Another positive thing about this bezel is that everything lines up. You gotta love that. One negative thing to this bezel is that there is quite a lot of play in it. And the K1 mineral insert, I'm not sure what to feel about that. And I know that K1 mineral is pretty scratch resistant when it comes down to it, but for the money, I think I would have liked to have seen a sapphire insert, a ceramic insert, something like that. Okay, let's address the tiny little 3 o'clock elephant in the room, that date window. To be perfectly honest, I think I would have liked to have seen this watch in a no-date variety. That date window, it just looks punched out. It looks like a bit of an afterthought. I know we hear that a lot, but in this case it's true. The numerals on the date window are not all that legible. They're tiny, they're thin. It's a bit hard to see through the date window, especially when there's a shadow bouncing off of the side of it. I mean, this isn't a deal breaker for me, obviously. This is in my personal collection, and I really love this watch for so many other reasons. So here's our lume shot. Not doing too bad, especially for that vintage old radium style superluminova, which tends to shine a little bit less bright than the standard superluminova, but not doing too bad a job here. Okay guys, here's a look at this watch on the wrist, on that mesh bracelet that I put it on. Like I said before, the leather strap is nice. I couldn't quite adjust it small enough for my wrist, but to be honest, I think I would have put it on this mesh bracelet anyway. I think this looks just too cool on the mesh. It's got that vintage vibe to it. It's nicely sized for a smaller wrist like mine. I've got a 6-inch wrist. But this has enough wrist presence to it that it's going to be good for a variety of wrist sizes. You could certainly wear this if your wrist is a lot larger than mine. Probably not if it's a whole lot smaller, but those people are probably fairly few and far between in any case. The case height is actually kind of impressive on this. It's a sub 12 millimeter case height, which for 300 meters of water resistance, I think is pretty impressive. Okay, so here's a look at this watch on the Timegrapher, performing very strongly, good amplitude, very good beat error. We're hitting at about plus 13 seconds a day of drift. Supposedly these watches were regulated to 5 positions, but running a little fast as far as I'm concerned. Honestly, this is not that big a deal. It's probably not worth me opening up the back of this thing and trying to regulate it, maybe knock off a few more seconds on that. I would have expected it would have been regulated a little bit more precisely, as big a deal as they made about this on LongIslandWatch.com, but running strong nonetheless. Okay, so final thoughts on this watch. Aesthetically speaking, it's almost everything I want in a vintage-inspired diver. I really like it. It's going to be tough to get this off my wrist. Few little complaints here and there, but as far as I'm concerned, nothing major. I really like this one. Okay, so thanks guys. I appreciate you being here, and I'll see you again next time for another 10-minute watch review.